Oh man, you ever have one of those days at work where you leave thinking, I need a vacation? It has been that kind of day. But speaking of vacations, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you will know that when I go on a given trip and I make a vlog about that trip, it usually comes out anywhere from 3 to 9 months after the trip has already happened, and we're doing it again. And welcome back, by the way, to another episode of How Accessible Is. This is a series where I talk about various adventures I've had from an accessibility standpoint, and today's a fun one, a crazy one, a wild one. We're talking about the Gateway Arch in St. Louis.
Look, there is an arch here. I didn't think there was one. I can see it. Nope, it's gone.
So after discovering that there is, in fact, a giant golden arch in the city of St. Louis, we decided to enter it. So one thing I did want to mention really quick was this experience, and I get this fairly often when I go through security checkpoints, whether that's at an event or a venue, or a concert, or sometimes even the airport, where it's almost like I'm a suitcase instead of a human, where someone will be, ma'am, can you guide him through? Can you help? Can you help? I don't know what to do. Ma'am, at my fiance or anybody traveling with me, as though I am suddenly that person's problem. Please, just for consideration's sake and for the sake of my own dignity, I am my own traveler, and I did unfortunately have one of those as I made my way into the arch. Not a huge deal, it happens fairly often. I didn't actually even think about it during my original recording, so this is post-editing Chris jumping in on this one, but I did want to highlight the experience because I did record a little snippet of that. So here's that, then we'll get into the fun stuff.
I don't like though when like with security things sometimes it's like I'm an object. Guide him up here, ma'am, can you make sure that he does that? I'm like, dude, I'm good. No, it just kind of, that bothered me a little bit.
And they got a few points on the board right away from an accessibility standpoint because they have a model of the, I don't know what you call it, elevator, the vehicle that you ride as you make your way up the arch. They actually had a model that you could enter, so I'm going to show some footage of me investigating this, and it wasn't just a model, it was a, I don't know what you call it, a mock-up, a life-size replica, so you could actually get in, see how cramped it is, you know, feel how uncomfortable the space is for you if you're claustrophobic, see if it's something you really want to go through with. And so here is the footage of that.
You can test out the tram.
I don't know where the window is.
Probably in the doors. Oh, I'm gonna have to fold. Okay, blind people thing to know. I'm gonna have to fold my cane because it does not fit upright, and I would be bonking the person next to me. Pretty cool though.
From there, we made our way briefly into the museum, and they had some pretty neat accessibility features overall. And some of those included audio-guided information sessions. I'll play one of those.
The weather was mild when we began the trip, but by nightfall, a high wind filled the air with dirt and dust that stuck to my greasy hair. I rode on top with another man and was happy when we reached the stagehouse. A heavy rain fell the next morning, and the coach got stuck in the mud. We had to climb off and help get it out. When I went back to St. Paul, I rode second class, so I could sit inside the coach.
Now, the ironic part on that was that it's a touch screen to activate, so you do have to be able to see to figure it out. So that was kind of a positive and a negative. Therefore, I would say they sort of cancel each other out, but the idea is there for accessibility. And something else I wanted to mention in this section specifically, but that was that they had kind of period-specific audio. So there was things like kind of prairie ambience to demonstrate the plains and the travel westward. There were storms, some Native American music, and wagon train travel sounds. So it's a really neat way to stay immersed in the history that the exhibit was trying to present.
They have a whole thing about the soundscape of the museum, which you can kind of, right now it's like birds and animals and things, but apparently at some points there's music and stuff, which is reflecting the kind of the settlers, the Mexicans and the Native Americans, all kind of having their different vies for power and things like that during this time. It's kind of wild. All right, so we do have some Braille. The Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848. Edition of California and the discovery of gold there in 1848 helped make the U.S. a wealthy nation. That's a funny story.
To be honest, we didn't spend probably more than 20 minutes in the museum as a whole, because it was then time to head up into the arch itself for our tour. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the overall experience, and throughout this clip I will put footage where I think it fits best.
Our boarding pass for tram car 7. We'll go check out Arch from the top.
The first part of the tour really consisted of kind of a historical information session, if you will, as well as a briefing of the vehicles and a chance to get our photograph taken, which we did, but did not end up taking home with us. So, interesting, it just wasn't necessary, is the way I would put that. So, the vehicles themselves and kind of the interface, if you haven't been to the Arch before, is very peculiar. So, you essentially get in these elevator-like pods, is what I would call them. And the way that this machine works, it's part Ferris wheel, part elevator, and part escalator, if I remember how they phrased it correctly. And essentially it kind of swings back and forth and then jolts you back. So it'll swing and go back and swing and go back and swing and you go back. And as you get towards the top of the arch, those swings become less frequent because you're getting towards the top. And then as you're in the bottom, they're more frequent, or the other way around, I can't remember. But it was a very bizarre ride up to the top in this little pod. And so I will put some footage of our journey up the arch.
Our door, number 7.
The other cool part about that is, if you can't see it, there was windows in the door, so you could actually see the interior of the arch as you went up, which was pretty cool. Making it up to the top definitely presented some orientation mobility challenges because the environment is very bizarre. There's all these stairs to get you to the very top of the arch, and they're kind of uneven and silly because they have to fit the other pods. So you kind of have to like navigate your way up there. And the top of the arch was really cool because I guess the way that the arch usually works is that there are 2 sets of these elevators that go up. And one was on the north side, one was on the south side. I want to say we were using the south tram. Tram, that's what they called it. I remember now. And I think we were using the south tram. And the north one was under maintenance of some kind, and so instead of only getting half the top of the arch to look at, where the north side would have the other half, we got the whole kit and caboodle.
Mississippi. That's pretty wicked. There's St. Louis. Somewhere down there is Busch Stadium. I saw the Cardinals.
And my favorite part of walking tactily on the top of the arch is I was able to find the center.
Pretty wicked to be up in the arch. I can tell I'm standing probably almost at the middle, which is kind of fun because tactily underfoot I can feel that the ramp is there. So it's kind of fun that I can walk up the side of the arch and back down. So pretty awesome.
Because it kind of half ramped up, and I could feel the kind of the seam under my feet of the exact top of the arch. And so I don't know if I took a vlog up there or not, but it was very cool to be able to find on my own without vision where the center was. So that was pretty cool. By getting really close to the windows, I was able to get some video and photo from the top on both the St. Louis side as well as the Mississippi River side. One last look at St. Louis before we head down. It's pretty wild to get to be up here doing this. There it is. Gateway to the West. Indeed. And at that point, the tour was just about over. It was pretty quick. I think we had about 10 minutes up at the top while the next group came up, and then we took the pods back down, and that mostly wrapped it up for the actual tour of the arch. But in terms of accessibility, I have probably one of my favorite things to show you yet, and that is these models. Our Gateway Arch National Park site. We have this guy. Number 1 is the arch. We'll find that in a moment. Number 2 is the grand staircase. Number 3 is the South Pond. This is an even smaller version of the other thing.
Like square, I think it's like 0 to 200. Like
0 to 200.
I don't know. That could be wrong. That seems wrong by first scale.
Like, so this is 200. If this is 200,
that's two.
We can
that
1,
can't be
2.
That.
Yeah, it could be because
because
it's 600 and something feet. So if we go like 200, 400, 600, and then some change, I could buy that.
Okay.
Huh? Tiny arch.
Oh, look at this one. This is like a long
It has a small school bus way down here. I don't know if I'm getting it on camera, but there's a school bus, and then the arch goes way over there and then back, which is pretty cool. We'll come around and find the tiny school bus for scale. And then you just look up and see the arch. That's pretty cool. So the doors are, oh weird, so they're angled, or they're straight on, but that's why it was on a staircase. And then this is like the outside of the arch.
You can see how it kind of connects to another one right here.
Oh, that's weird.
And then there's a model of the final piece on the other side of the arch.
Okay, that's kind of cool. That is a wicked vehicle right there. It had some braille. Braille says arch, tram, car, model. Arch, tram, car, model. Cool. Cool models because they're very permanent and they're also multiple scale lengths. So this one is like really tall. I'm almost too short to reach it. But to show the different aspects of scale is really cool. So these are really well put together tactile models. Really often scale is somewhat challenging to convey through 3D modeling because we don't always have the room to make a 3D model and then have something that's tactily touchable to represent scale. And so I really liked the model with the school bus because the bus just seemed so small. And they had several different sizes so that you could kind of get a sense for the different details. It was just a very well put together little display, and it also had braille, so points to the Gateway Arch for that. In just a moment, I will put up any footage or pictures that I haven't shown you yet over the course of this video. But before I wrap up, I kind of wanted to talk about, well, the fundamental question: how accessible is the Gateway Arch? Now, for me personally, because I had a traveling party, if you will, my fiance and her sister were with me when we did this, and so I had kind of assistance orienting to things and kind of getting a feel for it, or kind of getting a verbal layout of things before they happened. My experience was fairly accessible in that sense. I'm not sure that they have specific services at the Gateway Arch in terms of the tour itself for disabled people in terms of a guide. I know they talk about mobility limitations in terms of the elevators and that setup, because I believe you kind of have to do the stairs if you're going to get into the elevator, so that can be a challenge for some folks that may deter them from being able to experience the arch. But as a blind person, the only things that I can think of as suggestions would be, number one, some form of description of the view outside both the St. Louis side in terms of what buildings you can see and that sort of thing, and then the Mississippi River side, you know, what's notable, and, you know, maybe some more history or context provided about the views. Because for me, I just saw some vague buildings and some water. I couldn't really look down and see, oh, there's the stadium. I think at one point even I kind of pointed out, I was like, well, over there somewhere is Busch Stadium where we were for the Cardinals game. But so some kind of a description there would be really, really helpful. And the only other thing I can think of in terms of accessibility is more accessible displays in the museum in terms of some way to trigger them, whether that's a button that's always placed in a certain spot, or I know in the Kennedy Space Center, I believe it is, they have like a phone and you can dial certain numbers and it'll narrate things for you. So something along those lines to actually experience more of the museum in an independent way would be really helpful. But overall, as far as places that I have been in terms of, you know, national landmarks and that sort of thing, I found the Gateway Arch to be a lot of fun. And like I said, at this time, I'm going to throw up some footage of whatever is left over. It's pretty cool checking out the arch. Lots of braille, which I approve of. The tactiles and stuff were neat, the maps and stuff like that. So points for accessibility. The museum we spun through a little bit had quite a bit, so very cool. Look at the size of this model. It's so big they had to put it outside and you can walk in it. There goes my cane, oops. Have any questions, comments, queries, theories, concerns, or anything else, or if you have anywhere else you would like me to go as part of the How Accessible Is series, please let me know in the comments. With all of that said, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to see more, and we will see you soon. Peace.